A year and a half ago, I was getting death threats, which was crazy.
This is Eleanor Argyropoulos, a director who builds AI workflows for studios and some very well-known directors. In this episode, we get into the biggest misconceptions about AI filmmaking and a whole bunch more.
Everyone's like, it's a magic button that just like is going to poof, everything's out. And I'm just like, it's actually a lot of human effort that's gone into that. Well, I don't think I've actually ever worked harder than I ever have with AI. You would show one thing on the internet that's like 3 seconds and everyone would lose their minds. And now I would say that's completely flipped the other way. And that's in the space of about a year and a half.
From VP Land at AI on the Lot. This is Inside the AI Studio.
Hey.
Eleanor, good to see you.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good to see you too.
All right, people not familiar.
Yes.
How would you describe what you do?
What do I do? So I'm a director, traditionally coming from directing. I did commercials, kind of wanted to be in the feature space. And so what I do, I guess because of the strike, it kind of landed me in the AI space. So I now direct, but I also work with a lot of like really well-known directors and teams in production. I'm at various studios, from small teams to like big teams, to kind of help advise how to use AI ethically, what does that look like, build out different workflows for different people. Every project is completely different. So I do that on the film side and also on the advertising side as well. And then I educate because I'm super passionate about trying to, demystify the whole AI space for people.
What have these conversations looked like when you're working with directors, and how has this also evolved over, because you've been doing this for a number of years and speaking with people, how's this changed over a number of years?
It's changed immensely. My life is happier and easier now, which is great. A year and a half ago, I was getting death threats, which was crazy. Like, you would show one thing on the internet that's like 3 seconds and everyone would lose their minds, right? So I guess it's shifted because I think the ratio now was 2% of positivity. Oh, I see the creativity in this. I see how this can be used. And then everything else was like negative. And now I would say that's completely flipped the other way. And that's in the space of about a year and a half. So the conversations that I'm having with directors they're all a little bit different, right? Some of them are super excited about AI and know all the things, which makes it a lot easier because then you can kind of like have a bit more of a technical conversation. But for the most part, it's like, it can either go two ways. It's like, we've got this, can we fix it with AI? Or it's, look, this is our budget. We want to be as creative as possible. We're not doing this to like lower a budget. We're trying to keep the same budget, but we want to like have maximum creativity. So how do we do that? How do we achieve that? This is kind of what we're thinking. Can we do this part that would traditionally be a VFX? Can that be AI? And typically we end up landing on hybrid workflows in a lot of spaces. But yeah, those are mostly the conversations. It's like, help me figure out how to solve this problem, which is filmmaking,
Are
honestly.
they usually in some part of the production pipeline, or they're trying to figure out the problem, or is it also helping just get projects produced or get off the ground that just might not have had a chance before?
Both, honestly. There's definitely like directors who have come to me, or like producers that are just like, here's my pitch that I'm trying to get this documentary off the ground, or this film, can we make a trailer? We've already got all these assets, here you go. How can we build out a really good deck and a really good package that supports that so we have maximum chance of getting this funded? And that's always really exciting. But then the other thing is just like me coming in pretty early in the production process and working a lot in Previs to help DPs, mostly a lot of art department as well, and VFX kind of understand the layouts of things. And then from there it can escalate pretty much and go, well, do we want to also use this in post? And what does that look like? But yeah, typically I come on very, very, very early on. Yeah.
What is the Previs process looking like now? I mean, also, like, are they just kind of able to make a version of the film that can, like, they can kind of see it before they go to production? And yeah, also, how is that changing just the production cycles in general? It's
really cool because like art department are getting more involved with like the VFX teams, and they're kind of working hand in hand a little bit more, I think, than before, or at least from what I've experienced. And so the way it's changed is like, I'll work with the art team and they'll be like, we have this drawing that we want to get a 3D model and then hand that over to VFX and like just kind of demo it and put it in this scene just to kind of lay out what it's going to look like so we can show the director how quickly can we do that. And that's awesome because you can do that like within a day, honestly. Like, that's fun because you're taking somebody's assets and then making them and building them into this little world that then you can like literally play out. It's changing it there because you can work very much on like, okay, this is what's missing. These are the issues we're seeing and we want to get ahead of them before they actually happen. So that's actually really exciting and cool because then you can kind of figure out the space and figuring out what it would look like to, you know, like have a car driving through a scene from this angle versus that angle. And how do we shoot that complicated bit in this way? And so we can just like real quick test it in like a very low stakes setting, very, very low stakes. And then that will kind of help everyone understand what needs to happen a little bit better or visualize, you know, what's moving forward. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of taking existing assets and making things move, which is really fun.
And kind of making sure it works or that it'll cut together or work before you start actually spending a lot of money on production.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, really inspiring for people to see it because they're just kind of like, oh, right, this is why I'm doing this. This
like
really...
everyone can see it and it's like, okay, we're all on the same page. I'm not explaining to you and I think it's one thing, you think it's one thing. We all just...
Totally.
You can see the thing.
Yeah, especially when you're working with like bigger teams in different departments. There's just like, there can be a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of people, and like sometimes they cannot, you know, talk to each other. So it's nice being the bridge of that gap. Like I'm being added to teams, which is exciting because I can kind of bridge those two together.
You mentioned the hybrid workflows before and then you're kind of working on that now. So can you tell me more about what that's looking like?
Yeah, very rarely will you get like someone who's like, I want this whole thing to look like AI, which I think a lot of people feel like is what's happening. It's like, I'm just going to put in a prompt and then I'm going to have an AI commercial, right? But the hybrid workflow is really where it's a sweet spot because what it looks like is pretty much mostly working in tandem with VFX. An example of something that, you know, I did recently was getting a scene that was going to be green screened. They shot it in real life. They wanted to keep the camera move, shot on a green screen, and then the background was going to be something in an army, and it was like very complicated. So I had the 3D team basically give me the model of what that would look like, and then I would take that very, very basic model of the demo background and texture it and add all the layers in and kind of, you know, figure out which direction and lighting and all that kind of stuff would marry up and then use that to like style transfer it with the actual footage so that you can keep the mocap and the camera move. So a lot of it is kind of in that space, which is really fun. And then, yeah, it's just really kind of figuring out like, okay, can I do this transition instead of VFX rotoscoping this and taking forever and a day to do it? How can I make that less painful for them so that they can focus on more creative things? And we just kind of like pair together in that way. So that's kind of like an example of the hybrid workflow.
Do you think, I think the most prominent example that's playing out is like the Doug Liman Bitcoin film, gray box, whatever it was, 17 or 21 day shoot. But like the entire thing, gray, even the lit box, they're not relighting, they're just moving, shooting, and dealing with everything later. Do you think that, when we talk about the hybrid workflows, it's gonna be this gray box shoot for a lot of stuff, like real people, props, and everything's gray box, or something in between, or still a mix of like traditional production and sets?
I think it's both, honestly. I think it just depends on what you want to do and how much budget you have and what you're interested in, right? It's like, is everyone making Avatar? No, right? It's just Jim Cameron's making Avatar and he's doing it in that kind of way. I think it's going to fit into both those spaces. I think there's definitely a very big use case for that in the gray box. I think a lot of people will do that because they can be more ambitious and you can keep your actors and you can do all of that. So probably maybe more towards that, but it's just used so much everywhere else that it's kind of like a wide spectrum, honestly. I don't know, I think it's both, honestly.
Yeah, I've also wondered, and we saw the Moses kind of case study and like, where it's like, okay, we could, bringing back LED walls and the advantage of everyone at least can see what's happening and not, you're not in a gray box.
Totally. But you can also I think there's a lot of like real-time generation that can help too, so people can see what's happening. Right?
Yeah, well also what are you seeing with real-time AI and real-time generation? I
think it's not like, in my experience on the things that I've been on so far, I can't speak to others, but on my side, like I've been in that situation. We have like giant, LED wall and I've upscaled it to 7K and we've got actors in front and AI backgrounds. And it's cool because, you might notice something because AI is you really have to look at things under a microscope, right? And so if you're on like a screen this size, sometimes it's kind of hard to see like every freaking, every detail. So when you're up on that giant wall, it's like, well, you know what, maybe that didn't work. Maybe we should try something else. And like, that's okay. But it's really cool because a director can literally be like, well, what if I did that instead? Pretty much like you would on a normal set where a director's like, actually, I want to shoot it from that angle. And things adapt to the environment you're in because that just naturally happens like on any given day on set. So what I'm seeing is like the ability to also generate a new backdrop or iterate on your current one in real time. It doesn't take very long. And then you can like cross-check it with the team and go, all right, let's see if that works, or actually do we like this better? And then pop it up. And it's like very, very quick process.
Is there a limit to the types of scenes that works with or locations? Because like, traditional, a few years ago, virtual production, you build out your Unreal scene, you have a 3D environment, you move the camera, it's consistent. You're generating the new backgrounds. This could work for a few shots, but if you're like, I need to shoot a scene in a space where like, when we wait for time to move the camera, the space is the same.
It's like such a good point.
That
because
being cracked?
I mean, it's fine if it's like one shot or two, right? Because then you can have that consistency, but you can't do anything too complicated. Because then that whole work that you've done in the prep that for that is just completely, you've just undone it, right? And that's the other thing. It's like, people are like, oh, AI is like cheap and fast and I can just put this up on a wall and we're done. But actually it's like, well, I don't think I've actually ever worked harder than I ever have with AI. No, honestly, because it's just such attention to detail. And if you want to have really good quality output, you have to put in the time to make it good quality input. So yes, to your point, I would stay away from very big, busy, complicated scenes because anything busy, AI has more anomalies and there's more things for you to like look for under a microscope. So if it's relatively simple, if it's just like, I'm going to change the beach that I'm on to like this beach or this time of day instead, fine, no problem. But the second you have elements that need consistency, then that's going to take you some time, and you want to be really careful of that. Yeah.
For now. This week.
Yeah, literally. I mean, every day I wake up and something's changed. It's actually crazy. I'll go have lunch, come back, something's changed.
Tell me about AI as a creative partner and how you kind of view it.
Yeah, AI is my creative collaborator. It's fun. It's like an extension of you that's helping you get to where you need to go. So it's like if I have an idea in my head, because I still direct and I'm still working to figure out how I'm gonna, like work with my DP on certain scenes and whatnot. If I'm like awake at 3 a.m. and I have an idea, I will work with any of the language models, so sometimes Claude, sometimes Chat, it just depends. And I'll be like, all right, this is what's in my head, let's test it. And it will kind of help me get to where I need to go by having a conversation. So you're basically having a conversation with a co-collaborator that's designed to help you get what you need, right? So anytime I'm building a scene, whether it's for myself or somebody else, I'm literally always using ChatGPT. And I've built like a custom GPT for certain different like apps that I use, so it's tailored to different areas.
System instructions to kind of help you guide it.
You can like go into the store and there's like, people that have already done that for you, which is pretty neat. But yeah, I'm always just like, okay, well today I'm gonna use this particular program. This is what I need out of it. Help me figure out the best way to get to that. And I'll give it reference images and I'll be like, here, I'm showing you what I want. Help me figure out how to talk to this model. And so we're just constantly chatting. So it's like, I definitely feel like I treat it like it helps me be more creative, right? Because then I have a partner who's equally as creative to help me achieve what I need to achieve, which is super exciting and so much fun. And then you can like talk to it, like, no, that didn't work. Here, let me show you where it didn't work. Can you figure out why? Oh yeah, no, I see what's happening. That's why it didn't work. Let's try this instead. That's really cool.
What have been some misconceptions with AI, especially video creation and AI?
Yeah. So many misconceptions. I feel like you've probably encountered so many too. Working the AI space is an interesting one, right? Because the main misconception is that, one, it's taking away jobs, right? And I think people need to understand that it's actually evolving jobs. And I think that's the biggest difference is to your rotoscope artist who doesn't necessarily want to be doing that, now they can be more creative and, use it for other things, right? So that's one thing. But I think the biggest thing is like AI is just lumped under this one giant banner. And so people don't realize there's a difference between language models and then video models and then image models. And that actually working with AI can be a very linear process, pretty much just like a normal production. So I think I'm just super passionate about trying to educate people on how they're all a little different. I had this 4-minute film that I did once that was a lot of work. It took a minute to do it. And I put that out into the world and that was all good and well. It was testing Google's model at the time, it was VO3. And then the amount of people that came back to me, they're like, oh my God, what was your prompt? Was your prompt 4 pages for that thing? And I'm like, wait, hang on a second. For the whole 4-minute film or just this bit? No, the whole film. Did you, it must have been the longest prompt ever to get the whole film. I'm like, all right. No, they're still editing. I had rushes for every shot. I categorized it. There was storyboarding, and it's all the same parts of production, but we just put it together in this way. I think that's a huge misconception, and it's kind of fun.
Big prompt, hit the button, and you have a film.
Yeah, everyone's it's a magic button that just is going to poof, everything's out. And I'm just it's actually a lot of human effort that's going into that.
There are a lot of buttons to press here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Eleanor. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.